Leaders in the Law is a series of videos from Meritas Women's Leadership Congress, featuring Meritas lawyers in all stages of their careers. The interviews cover topics such as leadership, mentorship, and the challenges and opportunities of being a woman in the legal industry. The goal of the series is to provide real-life examples of what leadership looks like and to inspire young lawyers on their own journeys to become leaders.
Hi, Therese. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with you. Obviously, you and I are literally on the opposite ends of the earth. You're up in Norway and I'm down in Australia, so it's lovely to connect with you. And thank you for joining us on the Meritas Women Leaders in the Law interview series. You are only my second interview, so I'm very excited to have the opportunity to connect with you. So thank you, Therese. And just before we get started, you're from Brækhus in Oslo in Norway. And I understand, having spoken to somebody else from Oslo the other day, that it's very cold at the moment.
Actually, we've had a rather cold winter, but the last couple of days at least have been fairly mild. So hopefully for us living in downtown Oslo, we get to get rid of the snow in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, and we can leave the snow experience to the mountains of Norway, where we can actually go skiing and not having to just like sled around Oslo city, falling, breaking bones, and just being miserable.
Well, good luck with that. I hope that that's how it ends to be. So, Therese, just for the benefit of those who are watching and listening, you are a senior lawyer at Brækhus, and you practice primarily in corporations law, restructuring, financing, and estate administration. I noticed you have a master's degree also in insolvency and liens, and you also have a leadership role in that you represent young lawyers on the Meritas Young Lawyers Forum. And obviously both of our firms are members of the Meritas network, and that's how we've come to be connected. So I just wanted to give those that are watching and listening a little bit of background as to your role within the firm. The first question is one just to give people, I suppose, a little bit more dimension into who you are. If you could tell us a little bit about yourself and also the leadership roles that you've had during your career. Obviously, I can see, Therese, you are very young, and you do hold that leadership role for the Meritas network, representing young lawyers in the network, which is a very important part of our network and a very active part of our network. So I just want to ask you about what accomplishments you're most proud of, what leadership roles you have, and what you're aspiring to achieve in your leadership roles.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as you mentioned, I'm a senior lawyer with Brækhus law firm here in Oslo, Norway. I'm 29 years old, and I'm fairly local to Oslo, Norway. As you mentioned, I work on our team with corporate and finance law, where I specialize in corporate law, M&A, and insolvency. And I do hope to become a regularly appointed liquidator and trustee of bankruptcy estates when I grow up. And I have to say that the career accomplishment that I'm most proud of as of today is my recent promotion to senior lawyer within Brækhus law firm. Because I'm so proud of the work that I've put in and the growth and development that I see in myself. And I feel that I have experienced over the years, making me both confident and also feeling qualified as a professional. And I'm also really happy to be with a law firm such as Brækhus, because I feel that they appreciate and acknowledge the work that I do. And because I love both my job and my firm, and I really think that it shows both for the people around me in my personal life, but also to the clients that I meet through the work that I do. Typically, I would say like my leadership role is typically through like project management in our law firm, where I handle cases on behalf of the partners at our firm. They direct a case to me, and I am supposed to pick a team of associates and lawyers and handle the case together with them on behalf of the partners. It's a task that I do appreciate. I appreciate the responsibility and that they believe that I'm able to solve the cases that they provide me to solve. And also, as you mentioned, I'm also the young lawyer representative for Brækhus, representing kind of like the next generation of younger lawyers within each firm linked to Meritas in a larger organization, trying to figure out how we best can both take advantage of the younger lawyers as a source of both experience and practice, as well as trying to figure out how we as young lawyers can use Meritas to be better lawyers and develop our careers, which is a really great role to have. And I do really feel that being given the responsibility as and being a part of both Meritas simply as a young lawyer, but also as a part of the Young Lawyers Advisory Board, I'm able to, or it is actually more expected of me to develop as a leader, and I really appreciate the responsibility that comes with it.
Thanks for that, Therese. And look, Meritas is a fantastic forum for a young lawyer to evolve as a leader. Obviously, the Young Lawyers Advisory Board and representing Meritas as a young lawyer gives you the opportunity to connect with contemporaries across the world who have also nominated themselves or been nominated to take on a leadership role. And that opportunity to get that wide breadth of exposure to other leaders is something that often people don't get until they're in very senior leadership roles. So the Meritas network is a great forum to expose you to different types of leadership styles and also young people who aspire to continue to evolve as leaders. So in your leadership roles, whether it's through Meritas or case management, what motivates you to be a leader, and what, as you're evolving your leadership style, what values are you encountering and then saying, look, that's a really important value. I want to put that in my toolkit and use that in my own brand as I evolve as a leader?
Well, first of all, the main reason why I aspire to become a leader is mostly because I love working with other people. If you just want to be a lawyer, you can do that by yourself. You can work on the cases and not necessarily cooperate too much with other people. If you do not aspire to, or if you seek to avoid other people, you can probably handle that fairly well. And when you're being a leader, being a project manager, or aspiring to be a leader through the Young Lawyers within Meritas, you get to be around other people and grow together as a group, which is my main goal with the whole thing. And when it comes to like the most important parts of being a leader, I know that what I appreciate most with the leaders that I have and have had throughout my career up until now is that they're being able to combine both being great professionals and being skilled lawyers, being both book smart and also being able to inspire and understand the people that they're working with. Because there are a lot of great practitioners out there that are amazingly skilled and book smart, but that doesn't necessarily have the skills to handle the needs and the personalities of other people. I do believe that the key to becoming a great leader is exactly understanding the people that you're working with and trying to figure out how you're going to use the qualifications of the people that you're working with in the best possible way to generate the best possible result. And for myself, I also acknowledge the fact that when you're working with other people and you're using their qualifications as a leader, it's really important to take the time to provide guidance as well as to provide feedback to the work that they are producing for you. I know for myself that I have grown so much from the feedback that the partners I've been working with for several years have given me and continue to give me. And so that is the most important aspects of me trying to become a good project manager and a good leader to the people that I work with, is through feedback and guiding.
And look, you mentioned, Therese, in answering that question about being inspirational. And I guess one of the things that I often reflect on, you know, obviously I'm significantly older than you, but I look back on my career and still I have a number of people who have been very influential in my career and who I look back and think I actually probably didn't realize at the time, but I modeled and modeled and continue to model some of my own leadership styles based on how I've seen other people interact. And as you say, bringing out the best in people when you're managing a team, making sure that you're identifying their strengths and extracting out of the group everybody's strengths, and everybody has different strengths. And that in itself is a real skill as a leader, to be able to accept the fact that we don't want everybody to be the same. And when you get a group together, you really do try and get everybody to complement each other with their strengths. Obviously, when you have a group of people, that also can bring challenges. And when you're young and in a leadership role, it is sometimes quite difficult. I can remember, Therese, when I started managing our firm 9 years ago, I was actually one of the youngest partners. So I was a young female, and it was very confronting to be in such a senior role, the most senior role in the firm, in that context, particularly when I really didn't have any qualifications as a leader. As you say, a lot of it is what you learn in the roles that you are given. But first and foremost, you're a lawyer, book smart perhaps, and then a lot of the time the management skills are things that you learn and develop. So in your roles to date, what are some of the challenges that you have, or the challenges that you see either as a woman or just as a leader in the law that you're facing, or that you are likely to face in your career?
Yeah, with the part related to how it is, or challenges on being a female lawyer or a female leader, it doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily any different, but generally I would say that I grew up in a very equal home and a very equal community, where everyone's tasks and responsibilities basically was determined by their skills and not their gender. And fortunately, I've mostly experienced the same throughout my career, and I haven't really experienced any big challenges where I feel that I've been disadvantaged because I am a female lawyer as opposed to a male lawyer, which is of course a great fortune that I have had up until this point. But with that being said, I haven't just because I haven't experienced anything myself, I'm not blind to what my female colleagues or my female friends have experienced. And I kind of try to prepare myself for how I am going to act and how I am going to handle the things that I've seen they go through. And unfortunately, I'm assuming that it's not a question of if it's going to happen to me, but rather a question of when it is going to happen to me. And, you know, it is really, really sad, because the same way that some women take precautions, for example, knowing that they're going to be walking home alone at night, I do think that a lot of women also take precaution and try to brace themselves to handle certain situations they hear about and see other female colleagues being exposed to through their line of work. I've had several colleagues, for example, and friends as well, tell me that they've been called, for example, really petty names by male lawyers on the other side, both in court and in negotiations. And in front of their own client, basically in an attempt to establish themselves as a more qualified person or a more superior person to startle them. And name calling is just like really, really petty, and hopefully it doesn't really get any results other than your client understanding that the counterparty's lawyer is, yeah, sorry to say, a jerk. But the problem is the fact that some people feel entitled to try such manipulative techniques, and in some cases, because the lawyer on the other side is female. And I think that we need to call them out on it and ask to hypothetical questions. Would you have said the same thing if the counterparty's lawyer was a male? And typically in the petty cases that I've heard about, the answer would be no. And then it's a problem.
Yeah. I think it's interesting your experience, you say, coming from an equal home. You haven't really experienced challenges because of your gender. And then you did say you think it's a matter of if, not when, you'll be met by those challenges. Hopefully it's inspirational to say that I have not experienced what I feel to be a discrimination or a disadvantage because of my gender. More so because of my age, I would say. Becoming a leader quite young was, as I said, confronting. But like you, to date, in my career, I have not felt that my gender has ever been something that has been an issue or a consideration in either any role that I've been appointed to or any positions that I've tried to aspire to. I've never felt like I've had additional challenges to meet. But I also take your point, that is not the same experience for everybody. And it's interesting because I don't know what, it must be a little bit of environment. I suppose the confidence maybe that you assume growing up, because it's just not something that you're used to. So therefore you go into situations not expecting it and perhaps behaving in a way where people can perceive that you consider yourself to be an equal. So you're not sort of giving an impression that you're feeling inferior. And so I think there's the issue of environment. Also, I think there's a lot of luck as well. And just as being a lawyer and a leader, there's a lot of luck in who mentors you and who you have in your career and in your life that you can model your leadership style on. And a lot of that really is luck, because for some people, it's very much a matter of your microenvironment and who you are paired to work with as a young age, at a young age. And Therese, do you have, to that point, when you look back, when you started as a lawyer, or maybe even in your own life, your own personal life, are there individuals that have mentored you, that had a very significant influence in your career or your own personal brand as you're evolving as both a lawyer and a female leader in the legal industry?
Well, I don't really feel that there has been that one mentor through my career that single-handedly had an impact on my career. I'm sorry if someone feels neglected now, but I've rather always been surrounded by really, really great role models in both firms that I've worked in up until now. And especially with the partners that I have the honor of working with today, and the ones that I work the most with, I really, really appreciate that. I feel like I'm being able to work with great progressive people that all of them have really great qualities. And I feel like I am able to cherry pick my favorite qualities from all of them and try to build my own persona and my own qualifications based on what I most appreciate with each and every one of them, which I'm really, really thankful for that I have that opportunity.
And Therese, just on when you're reflecting back on the people who influence you, is there a mix of male and female in those influences in your life?
I would have to say that up until now, I have worked mostly with male partners, with both law firms that I worked with, and today as well, the partners that I work most for are male. And that, I think, is just a picture basically of the female-male ratio of law firm partners in Norway. There are a lot of female lawyers that never make partners because they end up, I'm not going to say drop out, but they end up leaving law firms before making partners. I can't really say why, but I do believe that maternity and work-life balance has something to do with it. And I hope that there's a change coming where females are, what can I say, kind of, or find, sorry.
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying. I think you're saying that the landscape changes so that there is an opportunity and an evolution of females being able to have a family and not feel like there's a choice that needs to be made between their career and their family, and being able to manage both things. And what I would say, yes,
and I don't really feel that, because it's a kind of like a tricky thing to talk about as well, because you want to try not stepping on anyone's toes, because it is a rather kind of hot topic, and there's a lot of feelings and there's a lot of opinions going around as to what the problem is with regards to retaining female lawyers and having them end up as partners at law firms. And I do not believe, of course, the women are not to blame, but I don't think necessarily that the law firms are to blame either, not, at least not every law firm, because I don't think, and I really don't hope that there are some kind of resistance against recruiting female partners at Norwegian law firms. But you have to ask, why are so many female lawyers ending up going to the public sector or going in-house as lawyers instead of becoming partners at law firms?
It is an interesting question, and the statistics that I looked at that came out last year, at least in Australia, is the very first time that we're seeing we're not seeing that drop off of female lawyers in their 30s that we were seeing previously, which hopefully is the beginning of a new sustainable trend, that there is the support and the network being developed for females to feel like they can have a family and not to compromise their career. And as you say, I think, you know, a lot of that has to do with the support that you have around you, but also I think as we evolve into a world where men also want to be able to have paternity leave and want to be able to have time with their children and have a more active role in the homemaker experience, it is hopefully becoming easier for women, because, you know, men are experiencing it, and therefore it's becoming more normal that people take gaps in their careers for a period of time to spend time with developing their own family network. So I'm hopeful, Therese, that there is going to be a sustainable change, and that will mean, hopefully it will mean men taking more time out of their careers to experience life as a dad, and it'll also see a more sustainable pattern in females retaining their roles as practicing lawyers, and it also not being a gap in their development as a leader as well, because obviously, particularly now, I think COVID has taught us that with the technology platforms that are available to us, there is so much that you can do remotely. Obviously, it's still the face-to-face is really important, but it does make the ability to be able to manage those times in your life where you want to be focusing on other things. It makes it possible to do both. So hopefully that's something that is evident of a pattern of change coming through, because as you say, we in Australia, we have many more female graduates from law school than males. And historically, the statistics, as you have indicated, when it gets to partnership levels, there has been a real disproportion in the representation. But there's been a change over the last 10 years, and hopefully that's that's a change now that will move through to future years.
Totally, and it's the same in Norway with more female law students and graduates than male, and hopefully through time it will kind of like progress through the system, and the share of female partners in law firms in Norway will be much larger than it is today, because I do believe that when I look at the female partners that we have at our law firms today, they are truly inspirational and really, really great practitioners and leaders, and it does something good with the whole culture of the company to have that mix of gender and all other factors. So diversity is really important, also with regards to gender, and also with regards to the composition of the leadership group of the company. We both need men and females, and hopefully throughout the years it will become better than it is today.
Well, that's a great place, I think, to end, Therese, on a real positive. That hopefully, it sounds like at Brækhus you've got a really great environment and a great platform to develop as a leader, and that you've got both men and women in strong positions that really provides an opportunity for both young men and women to come through, and for gender not to be the focal point, as you say, but to look at the skills and the offering of the individual. So that's great. It sounds like it's a great firm to be at, and I really appreciate you taking the time to participate in this series of interviews. It's been lovely to chat with you, Therese. Is there anything else before we finish up that you wanted to say as a closing comment?
Not necessarily. I hope to see everyone in Chicago. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to meeting you face to face.